From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight, House of Representatives Committee on Finance queries contracts with the federal government, leading to the payment of $33 million monthly to the Azura power station. President Muhammadu Buhari admits there's need to raise salaries of civil servants across the country due to rising inflation and depleting value of the naira. A National Broadcasting Commission revokes licenses of 52 media houses for failure to pay their broadcast fees.
And on business news tonight, Securities and Exchange Commission moves to sanction stakeholders, frustrating efforts aimed at reducing the volume of unclaimed dividends in the country's capital market.
On sports news tonight, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag calls for unity amid fears of protests against the Glazer family before Monday's game with Liverpool in the English Premier League.
And from Abuja, terrorists released 4 more victims from the Kaduna train attack 4 months after they were abducted.
And in international news from London, Ukrainian officials say Russian forces based at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant aim to disconnect it from the Ukrainian power grid.
Tonight, the House of Representatives Committee on Finance is querying a contract between the federal government and an investor, leading to the payment of $33 million monthly to the Azura power station located in Edo State. Lawmakers are concerned that the details of the agreement are shady and question why the Nigerian bulk electricity trading company would sign such an agreement without the approval of the Federal Executive Council. Our correspondent, Terry Kumi, reports.
The House of Representatives Committee on Finance commences investigation into power agreements between the federal government and investors. One of those invited is the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, which is responsible for purchasing electricity from the generating companies through power purchase agreements and reselling to the distribution companies through vested contracts.
You create a link.
The committee begins by scrutinizing the power agreement on the Azura power station.
The records I have shows that you pay $33 million monthly. But you are saying it's $30 million. That's a huge difference of $3 million. But before you sign such agreement, do you get fake approval?
It's not an infrastructure concession.
So you don't need fake approval?
No, we don't need fake approval.
You as MD of MBED and the board, what is your approval limit?
Up till about, was it last year, was 2.5 million for MDs.
2.5 million naira?
Yes, sir.
Naira, not dollars?
2.5 million naira.
Okay.
The committee is startled by the amount of money which the country is expected to pay monthly for power generated, whether evacuated from the Azura power station or not.
How you are committing Nigeria to pay $33 million a month without being evacuated? I want to know. The committee wants to know. And those officers responsible for such an agreement, without bringing it to the notice of FEC, we also want to know. The agreements, the requirements for signing an agreement indicates that you needed justice approval, advice, Ministry of Justice advice. And in one of your communications to Minister of Justice, the Minister of Justice then said, I do not agree with this. It is not in the interest of Nigeria. And I have the documents. And it got back to you, to your office. You then expunged, you as now the MD, then you are the Counsel General. You then expunge that portion that requires you to take each agreement to the Ministry of Justice.
And Attorney General in 2014 raised issues about signing of the guarantee.
Okay,
but subsequently...
No, hold on. Did he advise that it is not in the interest of Nigeria? Yes or no?
He expressed things that needed to be addressed. But the point I'm making
is that he advised.
Sorry, sir, can I comment?
No, sir. Answer my questions now. I'm the one answering questions.
He raised issues that he said needed to be addressed.
No, I said, did he advise that such agreement is not in the interest of Nigeria? Did he?
What I'm privy to.
How many years is the agreement, sir? How many years?
Azra PPA is for 20 years.
20 years. Can Nigeria exit such an agreement?
Sir, I have already made clear.
No, yes or no now?
When you are asking an investor to invest $1 million in your country, why would, no, sorry, can I clarify? Why would you exit? There are grounds for termination. There are grounds for termination of an agreement.
The lawmakers are requesting for the records of all power evacuated from the Azura power station since 2018, when the agreement became effective. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari believes there's an urgent need for a review of salaries of civil servants across the country owing to the soaring inflation rates and the depleting power of the naira. The president, however, says the government is overwhelmed by constraints such as shrinking revenue and crude oil theft, which are a major contributor to the nation's revenue base. Speaking to civil servants who came visiting at State House today, the president cautioned that the civil service is not a dumping ground for job seekers, but an ecosystem that must attract the best and brightest in order to solve the nation's socio-economic problems. Our State House correspondent Gloria Omezoke has more.
The Central Working Committee of the Association of Senior Civil Servants of Nigeria converged on a courtesy visit to the president. Speaking from a point of understanding of the critical role the civil service plays in policy formulation and implementation, President Buhari also expressed an acknowledgement of the crucial need for a review of the general salaries, but states major constraints.
I have noted the requests in the address of the President of the Association, and I want to acknowledge your view on the urgent need for a general salary review in the Federal Public Service based on the fast eroding purchasing power of the naira because of worldwide problems of high inflation amid general economic disruption. However, I wish to urge you to appreciate the revenue constraints being presently faced by government, which is caused mainly by the activities of unscrupulous citizens through the theft of our crude oil, a major contributor to our revenue base.
The civil service is no dumping ground for job seekers, the president cautions as he directs an immediate review of the Orosanyi report. Only a month ago, the federal government approved the setup of a committee to review activities of the ministries, departments and agencies.
The civil service must not be seen as a dumping ground for job seekers, but must attract the best and the highest who will contribute fresh ideas and a determination to solving our socio-economic problems. The Orosanyi White Paper report, which should be subjected to immediate review to enable government to take the most appropriate decision on its general recommendation. The outcome of the various review teams would lead to some fundamental changes in the structure of our civil service.
The nation's shrinking revenue owing to crude oil theft remains a major worry for the president, but he is confident that the security agencies can clamp down on criminals.
I also wish to reiterate that we will not allow a few criminals to have unfettered access to the nation's crude oil supply. Hence, I have directed our security agencies to speedily bring to a halt the activities of these vandals in the Niger Delta.
President Buhari promises that his administration would not tolerate any policy that would destabilize the service, as he urged civil servants to remain non-partisan in the discharge of their duties, in spite of the political party in power. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Politics now. Efforts to settle the face-off between the PDP presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike continue today with representatives of the PDP flag bearer meeting with the Rivers State Governor behind closed doors in Port Harcourt. The meeting, which took place at the governor's private residence, comes out a delegation of the PDP flag bearer led by the governor of Adamawa State, Amadu Fintiri, had met with some supporters of Governor Wike at the Rivers State Government House in Port Harcourt. The delegation also has a former governorship candidate of the PDP in Ondo State, Eyitayo Jegede, as member. The supporters of Governor Wike in the meeting include former governors Donald Duke of Cross River State, Olusegun Mimiko of Ondo State, and Ibrahim Dakwambo of Gombe State, and a former Attorney General of the Federation, Mohammed Adoki, and former Senator Olaka Wogu from Rivers State. Governor Fintiri, after the meeting, expressed hopes his committee will be able to achieve the needed peace and unity in the party, while former Governor Mimiko, speaking for the Wike camp, said more talks are needed to address specific issues.
Yes, we are aware of that. Nigerians are anxious and waiting for us to take over government in 2023. We have met as leaders, members of the same political family, and we have open discussion, work in progress, and we will continue.
There is no question about the fact that we have agreed that there is need for us to enhance unity within our party. This is a reconciliatory process. There are some issues out there which needs further deliberation. Then we'll meet again. It's a continuous process.
Meanwhile, the current state of the nation has continued to draw comments from concerned Nigerians. The latest being the former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Gana. Professor Gana says the ruling All Progressives Congress has failed in the management of the national economy, calling for urgent action to prevent total collapse. He was speaking at the flag-off of a flyover construction in Port Harcourt, Rivers State.
The Nigerian national economy is about to collapse. Inflation at a very high level, prices rising every day, the common man is suffering, and the economy is not doing well at all. And therefore, we appeal to the managers of this economy, even before we take over, for the few months that are left, there are a number of things that ought to be done so that the national economy does not collapse. We need to invest in production and productivity. Nations grow through productivity. You cannot have wealth if you don't produce. This economy is not producing because the insecurity is not even allowing our people to go to the farm. Therefore, we appeal that these matters be taken very seriously in terms of growing the productivity of the nation in agriculture, in industry, and in other vital areas. Our people are brilliant. Our people are hardworking. All they require is really a facilitating environment, and they will perform wonders. Nobody should allow the economy of Nigeria to collapse. You abused us when we were in power up to 2015. You've done much, much worse now. You told us that petroleum was very expensive. Now it's expensive, we can't even find it. You told us that we are not exporting so much oil. Now we are not even exporting any. You've lost control of the high seas. Nigeria's crude oil is being taken away by anybody that likes because the federal government has failed to really, as it were, control the waters and to control the seas. Revenue from oil. When oil prices are high, the revenue from oil to Nigeria is almost nil. It's a great shame. It's unacceptable. It's totally irresponsible.
We'll have more from Professor Gana later on the bulletin. But the Nigerian Navy says no oil was stolen from the country during the suspected illegal operation by a crude oil carrier, MT Heroic Idun, on August 7, 2022, as a result of the timely response to the situation by the personnel. According to the Chief of Policy and Planning of the Nigerian Navy, Rear Admiral Saidu Garba, The vessel, which was registered in Marshall Island with a capacity of lifting 3 million barrels of crude, entered the Nigerian maritime environment without any form of authorization or clearance, but was intercepted early enough. Rear Admiral Garba briefed journalists on the incident at the naval headquarters in Abuja. But in part two, after the break, terrorists release 4 more victims from the Kaduna train attack 4 months after they were abducted. That's in a moment. To join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. House of Representatives Committee on Finance queries contract between the federal government leading to the payment of $33 million monthly to the Azura power station. President Muhammadu Buhari admits there's need to raise salaries of civil servants across the country due to rising inflation and depleting value of the naira. And the National Broadcasting Commission revokes licenses of 52 media houses for failure to pay their broadcast fees. That now, as the National Broadcasting Commission says it has revoked the broadcast licenses of radio and TV stations belonging to Silverbird, AIT and some other stations for failing to renew their licenses. Over 50 stations, including state broadcasting outfits, are affected, all of which is said to be owing the Commission a total of 2.6 billion naira. NBC Director General Balarabe Shehu, who made the disclosure during a press conference in Abuja, says this is the first batch of defaulters to be sanctioned. A second batch will be made public soon. Meanwhile, the Broadcasting Organizations of Nigeria has promised to engage the NBC in resolving the matter.
After due consideration, the National Broadcasting Corporation, NBC, hereby announces the revocation of the license of the underlisted debtors and are hereby given 24 hours to shut down their stations or operations. Our offices nationwide are hereby directed also to collaborate with security agencies across the country to ensure immediate compliance. The stations affected are Silverbird TV or Silverbird Communications Company Limited is a network station. Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication, Abuja. Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication Limited, Lagos. Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication Limited, Yanagua. Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication, Port Harcourt. Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication Limited, Jos, is an FM station also. And Rhythm FM, Silverbird Communication, Benin. AIT, Repower FM, Drought Communication Limited network.
Reactions already trailing the NBC action, with the Nigeria Union of Journalists describing revocation of 52 broadcast station licenses as hasty. A statement by the national president of the NUJ, Chris Isigozu, described the decision of the NBC as ill-advised. A statement from him reads in part, "It should be noted that this wholesale revocation of licenses at this critical time of insecurity in the country appears to be a decision taken without careful prior deliberation, consultation or counsel. The NUJ believes that in the face of economic hardship, the large-scale clampdown on broadcast stations in disregard to security issues and the attendant consequence is one unpleasant luxury the nation cannot afford at this time." Meanwhile, the Nigerian Guild of Editors has expressed concern over the shutting down of more than 50 broadcast stations by the National Broadcasting Commission for failing to pay their renewal license fees. In a statement jointly issued by the President and the General Secretary of the Guild, the body said the action, if not reversed, would lead to the loss of thousands of jobs in the country where jobs are scarce. The NGE explained that while it is not against broadcast stations fulfilling their financial obligations to the NBC, it noted that the current harsh operating environment that has crippled every sector in the nation is not taken into account by the NBC before its action. According to the statement, currently it is difficult for private stations to import broadcast equipment due to the high exchange rate. We're all aware of the high operational costs, including the cost of diesel to power their generating sets. The Guild says it is worried because media houses, which play and continue to play a key role in nurturing and developing democracy in the country, cannot just be off-air, no matter the reasons. And in the review of the NBC Act to increase the lifespan of a broadcast license from 5 to 10 years is necessary. Let's get more news now from our studio in Abuja. Here's Gloria Umezoke. Gloria, looking lovely in blue.
Thank you. You too, I must say. Well, welcome to Abuja. We begin in Kaduna State, where 4 more hostages held by terrorists who attacked an AK-9 train on March 28 have been released. Among those released are an 85-year-old woman, Hajia Halimatu Atta, and her 53-year-old daughter, Adama Aliyu. A member of the negotiating team, Tukur Mamu, told Channels Television that the victims were released on Friday after spending over 4 months in captivity. Meanwhile, Mr. Mamu is drawing the attention of the federal government and the Christian Association of Nigeria to a plan by the terrorists to marry off the youngest victim, 21-year-old Azuf Louis John, any moment from now, just as they did in the case of Leah Sharibu in Yobe State some years ago.
Earlier this evening on Friday, they visited my office immediately after their release. First, to register their appreciation for the little effort we have been doing to ensure that this issue comes to an end as soon as possible. And honestly, their condition is really very bad. And I won't stop by appealing to government, the federal government, to intensify effort to ensure the release of all the remaining victims. And more worrisome and disturbing, is the issue of this young innocent girl, Azrupa Lois John. We know that she's the youngest in that train. And I have credible information that I believe it is very, very important to share with Nigerians, and especially the leadership of the country and the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria. The efforts or the plan to marry her up to one of the top commanders of those that held them, it is very real. And this is something I think as a government, as a people, as organizations, we must take seriously to avoid the situation that happens to this innocent Leah Sharibu. And I think this is the right time to intensify efforts, and more so in a situation whereby past efforts in securing the release of the other victims have yielded a positive result. I think even though my call is for the release of all the remaining victims, but the imminent threat, to the freedom, liberty of this girl is very, very important for me to emphasize. And until and unless, the relevant authorities take immediate action in that regard, I can confirm to Nigerians that efforts have reached advanced stage to marry her off. And I think this is the right time for us, for CAN especially, to act. And I must emphasize that these issues should not be politicized, especially along religious lines or to concentrate in criticizing the leadership. When we have a very complicated issue like this, it is not time for us to start apportioning blames. Let us squarely address, the crisis. Let us squarely address the challenges and then the threat. Then thereafter, if you want to criticize, anything can happen.
Meanwhile, troops of Operation Forest Sanity involved in the ongoing military operation in Kaduna State have continued to record successes, the latest being the destruction of a camp said to belong to a notorious bandit, Lawal Kalba, located inside a forest in Rafindawa in Chikun local government area of the state. Well, this is coming from the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, who explained in a statement that the troops conducted a patrol to the location following actionable intelligence. He said that the troops recovered some batteries and 27 bags of fertilizer suspected to be used by the bandits for manufacturing of improvised explosive devices, IED. Also, one motorcycle and 2 mobile phones were recovered as the bandits took to their heels before the troops arrived. The troops also made some arrests in a location near the camp. Also, he said investigations are on to certify the true status of the intercepted suspects. Meanwhile, several terrorists are said to have been killed after police officers engaged them as they attacked Wapa village in Korfi local government area of Katsina State. According to the police authorities in the state, the incident occurred in the early hours of today after a distress call was received that terrorists numbering 24 on motorbikes shooting sporadically with AK-47 rifles attacked the village and kidnapped 2 people in Wapa village. Well, staying with security this time in Zamfara state, where a legal practitioner, Benedict Azza, has been killed by gunmen suspected to be kidnappers. It was gathered that the attackers wanted to kidnap him at his house in Gusau, the state capital, but he was able to escape in his vehicle, but the gunmen pursued and shot him dead. According to the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association in Gusau, Junaidu Abubakar, after being shot, Azza was said to have opened his vehicle door, came out and sat on the road, bleeding, and died shortly after. He was said to have been shot 3 times by the gunmen who took to their heels after they saw people rushing to the scene. To legal matters, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has reserved judgment in an appeal filed by a PDP chieftain, Sheriff Oborewori, challenging the emergence of Mr. David Idebie as the flag bearer of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 governorship election for Delta State. At the resumed hearing of the appeal, a 3-man panel of the appeal court led by Justice Peter Ige said the date for judgment will be communicated to the parties after they have adopted their written arguments. A federal high court presided over by Justice Taiwo had on July the 7th, 2022, ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission and the PDP to recognize Mr. Idebie as the candidate of the PDP in the 2023 governorship election in Delta State. In his judgment, Justice Taiwo disqualified Mr. Oborewori as the governorship candidate of the PDP in the state. Justice Taiwo had agreed with the plaintiff in the suit, David Idebie, that Oborewori ought not to be on the ballot for the PDP primary election on account of supplying false and forged documents to INEC. Dissatisfied with the judgment, Oborewori said, and the PDP headed to the Court of Appeal to seek redress. But that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Marachi.
Thank you, Gloria. We're moving to the Niger Delta now. As part of efforts at making learning environments conducive for students in the region, the Niger Delta Development Commission has flagged off the construction of a 500-bed space hostel at the Niger Delta University, Amasoma, Bayelsa State. It comes as the NDDC inaugurated the newly constructed 3.6-kilometer Okansu Community Road and bridges in Ogba, Egbema, and Doni local government area of Rivers State.
The NDDC is making good its pledge of partnership with the Bayelsa state government in the delivery of key intervention projects. The promise was made during a visit to the Niger Delta University in the company of the Bayelsa State Deputy Governor, Lawrence Erujapo. First, the interventionist agency commissions a 1,000 kVA generating plant to ease the power supply problem in the university. A gesture the state government receives with delight.
This is a great development. This is a great partnership that will benefit the people of not only the Niger Delta, but the entire people of Nigeria.
The agency also undertakes the groundbreaking for the construction of a 500-bed hostel to address accommodation challenges in the institution.
We are scientifically grateful, very wonderful, that I'm seeing this happening in Niger Delta University. The student community will be very happy because these hostels are for the student body.
In another part of the Niger Delta, the Commission has also inaugurated the newly constructed 3.6-kilometer Okansu Community Road in Ogba, Egbema, Ndoni local government area of Rivers State. The Okansu Community Road links other communities in the area and is said to be economically important to the residents who are predominantly farmers. For this historic project, the people express joy as they are joined by the interim administrator of the NDDC.
We are thanking you for the beautiful ways you have given us. But we will also look forward to the reconstruction of our primary school building.
There's more to come for the residents as the NDDC boss promises that the agency will complete the 1.8-kilometer internal road in the community and undertake the rehabilitation of the community primary school.
We want to thank God for President Buhari and the government of APC, and even the good people of Rivers State. Those have cooperated with the government, cooperated with the contractor. What I can say is that God will bless you. He will give you more and more projects. 1.8 meter internal roads here, the concrete pavement road. So we will do it. That one is ongoing. The primary school here, we are going to intervene. We are going to send back this.
The NDDC boss commends the residents of the community for their peaceful disposition throughout the construction work and appeals to them to support the federal government's drive through the commission to improve the quality of life in the region.
The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, in partnership with the Industrial Training Fund, has raised 100 youths in various vocational skills. At the graduation ceremony held in Abuja, the Executive Secretary of the board, Mr. Simbi Wambote, said the initiative is aimed at reducing unemployment and poverty in the country.
For 3 years, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, in partnership with the Industrial Training Fund, ITF, has been training Nigerian youths in various cutting-edge skills. And in this hall, 100 beneficiaries who have been trained for 3 months are graduating, who the representative of the Director General of ITF believes are now equipped to become self-reliant.
The objective of the center is to ensure that as many Nigerians as possible are equipped with the skills for entrepreneurship and employability to combat the attendant effects of poverty and unemployment.
In the first batch of the training program, 250 artisans were equipped with technical and vocational skills in 9 key areas. And according to the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Mr. Simbi Wambote, who joins the event virtually, the expectation is that the beneficiaries will in turn employ other youths.
We have successfully deployed new technologies in many vocational schools across the country and trained our artisans and professionals in modern and advanced skill sets with the requisite certification to meet the future and difficult challenges being faced in the oil and gas industry. In total, 13,000 Nigerians are benefited from our human capacity development programs. And we have upgraded and equipped modern vocational and learning centers in support of TVET programs across the country.
The beneficiaries are given starter packs in addition to a promise of financial support. It's an achievement that excites them as they promise to make judicious use of the opportunities.
And the skills we have obtained will also enable us to be great entrepreneurs.
that we help this country to increase productivity.
The management of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board is hoping that this effort will go a long way in reducing Nigeria's unemployment burden.
And back now to Professor Jerry Gana's visit to Rivers State, where he was special guest of honor at the flag-off of the construction of the 12th flyover bridge in Port Harcourt. A project was flagged off by him on the invitation of the state governor, Nyesom Wike. Professor Jerry Gana described Governor Wike as the pride of the PDP owing to his sterling leadership qualities.
The Nyesom Wike's administration continues its infrastructure development with the flag-off of the construction of the 12th bridge in Port Harcourt. The bridge, located at the intersection of the Mboba, Ozuoba and Adajord roads in Obiakpo local government area, stretches to the Bayelsa axis of the east-west road. Former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Gana, who is the special guest at the event, commends the Rivers State Governor for his outstanding leadership qualities.
We love your son. He is a wonderful leader of truth, the man who stands for justice, for equity, for goodness. And we love him so much because he's also performing. He's delivering development projects for the people of Rivers State. In fact, we are very, very jealous that you have such a wonderful governor. This is the essence of democracy. The people elect a good leader. The good leader goes to implement good projects for the people. And therefore, there is the partnership between leadership and good governance.
Governor Wike uses the opportunity to restate his stance on clamping down on any politician recruiting thugs for elections.
Whether you're in PDP, you're in APC, you're in SDP, you're in Accord, you're whatever party you call it, if I catch you, try to plot to bring security in this state, you will go in for it. There's no amount of propaganda. If you like, go to social media, they're clapping down on you. It's your business. I will not allow anybody, because we have suffered it severally and we have spent money. Can't begin to arrange parties in your event center, in your hotels. Pray. I don't have any hint about it. If I do, I will bring down your hotel, I will bring down the event center, and I will arrest those people, I will prosecute them.
If completed, the project is expected to reduce travel times within the metropolis and encourage investment in the state.
Rivers people follow now we can.
Let's get into some business news now. Here's Teniola Shobowale.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Welcome to Business News. The Securities and Exchange Commission says stiff penalties will be meted out to any stakeholder whose action appears to frustrate its efforts in reducing the volume of unclaimed dividends in the domestic capital market. Well, this was disclosed by the Director General of SEC, Alhaji Lamido Iguda, during a press briefing at the end of its second Capital Market Committee meeting. He told journalists that as at the end of December last year, unclaimed dividends increased to 180 billion naira, up from 168 billion naira recorded in 2020.
The Commission reiterated its commitment to continue to strive and fulfill its mandate of protecting investors and creating an enabling environment for market operations. I urge all stakeholders to continue to work towards reducing the volume of unclaimed dividends and reiterated that stiff penalties will be meted out to any stakeholder whose action appears to frustrate the efforts of the Commission on this objective. The Commission noted that in spite of its efforts in the implementation of the Electronic Dividend Mandate Management System, EDMMS, investors have continued to lament the delayed payments of e-dividend and the cumbersome manual process, among other shortcomings. A large number of investors are also still unaware of the EDMMS and have not mandated their accounts. The Commission will, however, continue to create awareness in this regard. Capital market operators must also do more to demonstrate through their activities an efficient capital market that prioritizes the interests of investors.
The Nigerian Ports Authority says it generated 172.28 billion naira in revenue in the first half of 2022. According to the NPA, the figure represents a 5.38% increase from 163.5 billion naira revenue generated in the same period last year. The managing director of the NPA, Mohammed Bello-Koko, who made this known in the authority's half-year operational report for this year, said it also remitted 78.49 billion naira to the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation within the period under review. He explained that the figures were encouraging in the midst of the current global economic and inflation crisis, among other negative factors. Meanwhile, key highlights of the figure indicates that 50.25 billion naira represents cash remittances, while the remaining sum of 28.24 billion naira relates to the remittance with respect to other periods. Now let's head over to the domestic stock markets. Ini John Mekwa has details of today's trading activities.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market reports. Well, profit taking shaved 95 billion naira off the total market share at the close of trading on the NGX today. But once again, the banking counter gained. FBN Holding added 5 kobo to its share price, UBA 10 kobo, and these activities place them as the top trades. FBN Holding there, we see 38 million in volume at the close of trade, UBA 9 million, and Access Co 15 million. But of course, this does not mean that that counter was spared from the profit taking, because we saw Access Co shed 5 kobo while FCMB lost 24 kobo. The activity chart shows a drop in all the parameters. Investors are just not letting up. I tell you, volume is lower than yesterday, so is value, and of course is deals. No sign of green on the activity chart today. Not a pleasant one. And a clash of giants in the market today. Honeywell Flour lost 22 kobo. On the other hand, Dangote Sugar gained 30 kobo. All this show here are the sectors. Banking still in the green, just like yesterday. Consumer goods has come back 0.06 marginal, but at least it's still in the green. But industrial goods, since 2 days ago, has not been able to recover, down 0.35%. MTN Nigeria, we drew the market down yesterday, gained 1 naira 60 kobo to close at 196 naira. Unfortunately, it was not able to pull the market up. So it's confirmed the bull had only one show day this week. The bear dominated this week. We hope it will not be like that next week. But that's the stock market report. It's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Ini. Now let's find out how major global stock markets ended Friday's trading session. And that's Business News Tonight. I'm Teniola Shubowale. It's back to Amarachi for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Tenny. The federal government says stranded Nigerians in Dubai are undergoing profiling by the Nigerian mission in the United Arab Emirates. Addressing a press conference in Abuja, the chairman of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Mrs. Abike Dabiri-Erewa, claims that most of the stranded victims were either trafficked or criminals running away from the police. She gave the update following a viral video showing some Nigerians at a deportation camp in Dubai.
The key thing is that profiling has to be done. You can't just go and carry everybody and say, get on board. We need to know you're Nigerians. Like I said, some don't have any passports. There are children with, you don't even know their parents. There are some with a little profiling done that have no form of identification. Then you also have to ensure that you don't have some criminals who have committed a crime in Dubai and want to use the opportunity to run away. So while it's a situation on ground, it's important that we allow the mission, the consulate, to do the proper profiling. And then, of course, the federal government, as always, will now take the next steps when they are identified properly as Nigerians and ensure that everything is properly done. So that's the situation as we speak. And I'm sure by tomorrow there'll be more information from the consulate to the ministry, and then the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will take the next steps on what next to do with it. I want to appeal to Nigerians, just don't go to these places without your proper documentation. You know, at the end of the day, you come back with nothing if you come back alive. So we can guarantee that the mission is actually on top of the situation, they're profiling them, and at the end of the profiling, the next steps will be taken.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has agreed to a call with France's President Emmanuel Macron on the need for a visit to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant by inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency. Both Ukraine and Russia have accused each other of shelling the Russian-occupied plant and risking a nuclear accident. Simon Pusey has more in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukrainian officials say Russian forces at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant aim to disconnect energy produced there from the Ukrainian power system. The state power company that operates the plant says the Russian occupiers are preparing to stage a large-scale provocation at the largest nuclear power station in Europe. It's after Russia has rejected appeals for a complete demilitarization of the area. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres sounded the alarm after meeting Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and Turkish leader Recep Tayyip Erdogan in Lviv. The calls come amid growing concern over safety at the site as both sides accuse each other of shelling the area. Mexican officials have dealt another blow to the past administration's probe into the disappearance of 43 students, calling it a high-level cover-up of a state crime in which 8 years on there are no signs of survivors.
Que no hay indicio alguno de que los estudiantes se encuentran con vida.
Mexico's top human rights official told a news conference to present the probe's latest report. The past government's participation in the disappearance constituted a state crime, as he made a rare acknowledgement that the students did not survive. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has pledged to reveal what truly happened to the students who vanished in the southwestern city of Iguala in September 2014. Their disappearance sparked international outrage over human rights abuses and impunity in Mexico and did long-lasting damage to the administration of then-President Enrique Peña Nieto. Powerful storms have battered areas of Central and Southern Europe, killing at least 12 people, including 3 children. The deaths, most from falling trees, were reported in Italy and Austria and on the French island of Corsica, which saw winds gusting up to 224 kilometers an hour. Authorities there said a 13-year-old girl was killed by a falling tree on a campsite. This the scene in Venice, where masonry was blown off the bell tower of St. Mark's Basilica. The storms follow weeks of heat wave and drought across much of the continent. A wildfire in the Valencia region that has been dampened by rain is now raging again, fanned by changing winds. Firefighters struggled to control the Beges blaze in the Valencia region, and video showed members of Spain's military unit trying to protect the Roman Catholic chapel of Santa Cova in the village of Ultara. More than 400 people and 36 aircraft have been working to control the fire that has burnt more than 19,000 hectares, forcing the evacuation and confinement of over 1,000 people in nearby villages. A new survey shows Brazil's president's support grew by 3 percentage points from last month, while approval for his rival, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, remained flat ahead of the country's October elections. A survey by pollster Datafolha showed Lula received 47% voter support against Jair Bolsonaro's 32%, compared with 47% and 29% respectively in June. It comes after Jair Bolsonaro attempted to grab the phone off a heckler. Footage showed Bolsonaro grabbing the YouTuber's shirt and arm before his bodyguards then pulled him aside. The Finnish Prime Minister Sanna Marin is facing a backlash after being seen partying in a leaked video. In the footage, thought to be taken from social media, she and friends, including Finnish celebrities, are seen dancing and singing. She has faced criticism from opposition parties, with one leader demanding she take a drug test. The 36-year-old denied taking drugs, saying she only drank alcohol and just partied in a boisterous way. And finally, Europe's worst drought in years has pushed the river Danube to one of its lowest levels in almost a century, exposing the hulks of dozens of explosive-laden German warships sunk during World War II. The vessels were among hundreds scuttled along the Danube by Nazi Germany's Black Sea Fleet in 1944, as they retreated from advancing Soviet forces and still hamper river traffic during low water levels to this day. Months of drought and record-high temperatures have slowed river traffic on vital arteries in other parts of Europe, including Germany, Italy and France. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Let's now take a look at some sports stories. The stage is set for the World Heavyweight Championship between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk in Saudi Arabia on Saturday night. Billed as the Rage on the Red Sea, Anthony Joshua will be a man on a mission to reclaim his belts following his stunning loss in North London last September.
Accompanied by his team, of course, it's a changed team. In comes Robert Garcia to work with Angel Fernandez, the only survivor from the previous regime.
Anthony Joshua went into his title defense against Alexander Usyk as favorite, but the Ukrainian rained on his parade in front of a sold-out home crowd on a rainy night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. After the stunning loss, only the second of his professional career, AJ did not waste time in triggering their rematch clause.
Great 12 rounds. Great experience as well in the ring. And we progress from this point on once again. So we'll be doing it all again soon.
With plenty of time to reflect, it appears AJ will be adopting a new strategy for a second bite at the cherry.
Usyk came up from cruiserweight, great fighter, 12-round fighter. I wanted to box with him for 12 rounds and show, because I was always this stigma is that I can't box. I'm a big, stiff bodybuilder. So I said, all right, cool, let me practice my boxing. Try practice my boxing with Usyk. It didn't go to the decision. He won 9 rounds, I won 3.
It seemed like forever since that fateful night he lost his belts for a second time. But Joshua's redemption time is near.
Must win. I like the pressure. But mostly just get the job done. Instinct, stay focused, get the job done, and God willing, we're victorious.
Wearing the colours of freedom, the unified heavyweight champion of the world.
110.9 kilos for the challenger, former 2-time world champion AJ. 100.5 kilos for the reigning and defending champion, Alexander Usyk. Here they are, face to face.
The wait is over. The weigh-ins are done, as the two rivals share a 107-second stare down ahead of Saturday night's Rage on the Red Sea.
The The stakes are indeed high, and we can't wait to see who will come out victorious in that bout. But moving on to football, Manchester United manager Erik ten Hag has urged fans to stay unified ahead of Monday's Premier League clash with Liverpool, as some supporters plan to protest against the club's American owners before the game. United, who won the last of their record 20 English League titles back in 2013, will be looking for their first top-flight points under ten Hag when they host Liverpool. United have come under fire from fans after losing both their opening games to sit at the bottom of the league table and also failing to secure transfer targets in the close season. And that's a wrap on sports news. It's back to Amarachi with the wrap of the news at 10. I'm Victor Matthias. Have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot, Victor. And the main news again. The House of Representatives Committee on Finance today queried a contract between the federal government leading to the payment of $33 million monthly to the Azura power station. Also today, the National Broadcasting Commission revoked the operating licenses of 52 media houses for failure to pay their broadcast fees. And the Nigeria Union of Journalists and the Nigerian Guild of Editors today reacted to the revocation of licenses for the media houses, while the NUJ said the decision was hasty and ill-advised. The Nigerian Guild of Editors expressed concern it could lead to loss of jobs. That is the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night and enjoy the weekend.